The Epsilon Star Setter is the latest tool in the Westalee range. I have been working on the Epsilon Star Setter for about 6 months and have decided to release it due to the many requests we have for an easy way to work out the measurements for Lemoyne Star 8-pointed star blocks. The tool measures from 2 to 18-inch finished block size, and in the tool set you will get the Epsilon Star Setter, a DVD with instructions, which you are probably watching now, a guide to help you set the triangles, and a 16-page instruction guide. At the bottom of the ruler we have blocks shown. The first shows you an 8-pointed star made the traditional method where we use Y seams. The second is an easy 8-pointed star with no Y seams. The third one shows you a split diamond, and the fourth shows you a broken diamond where our diamond is broken into 4 pieces. To use the ruler, if we are making the squares, we will set the ruler at the measurement we require, cut strips, cross-cut into squares. For the diamond, we will do the same, cut strips and cross-cut into diamonds. Then for the triangles, we will set the ruler to the measurement we require, and we will also set our triangle to cut our triangles from. You will notice at the bottom that C says it is a half square triangle, which means when we cut out a C piece, we will cut the strips on the bias. D is also a half square triangle, so we will cut those on the bias. And when we cut C1, we are cutting a quarter square triangle, so we will cut the strips on straight of grain. For our split diamonds, we cut our strips on straight of grain, and for our broken diamonds, we cut them also on straight of grain. One of the most important things when making pieced blocks is to make sure our fabric is prepared. This piece of fabric is how most of our fabric looks when we either take it from our stash or bring it home from the shop. You can see all the creases. and the bolt fold in the middle is very sharp. So the first thing I do is press my fabric. Once my fabric is pressed, then I need to align my fabric so that the fabric is straight. Take the fabric with the selvage edges together, and you can see that at the bottom there is a lovely buckle. Now gently move the fabric, giving it a gentle shake, keeping the selvages together until the fabric is hanging straight. When the fabric is hanging straight, you can then lay the fabric down on your mat, run your hands across the fabric and bring the edges up to the selvage to the fold. When that is in line, my fabric will now cut straight and I will not get the V forming in my fabric. You will notice that at the edges of this fabric, the cut line is no longer in line. We are now going to cut a traditional Lemoyne block with the Y seams, and this will be an 8-inch block. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut my squares. So I will set the ruler on A at 8. So just loosen the screws and move the guide until you have it lined up on the 8. And now I will cut the squares. For this block we need 4 squares. So I just bring my guide over the edge of that cut, line the straight line of the ruler at the bottom, hold it down, and cut the strip, and now I'll cross cut that into squares. So I'll use the line through the centre as my line to keep my line straight. And that is the 4 squares for the block. Next I'm going to cut the triangles. So I'm going to use the C1. Being C1, I know I have to cut quarter square triangles. This will put the bias on the inside of the block where it should be. So I will now set the tool up for that. And I'm going to cut a strip straight of grain. The next step is to set the triangle to match this measurement here. My strip is cut, tip my ruler upside down, and then take my triangle. I will loosen the screws of the half square triangle and adjust that measurement. Place the little black guide, put the tip of the triangle into the guide, and the black guide underneath is touching the clear of the ruler. Tighten the screws, and now my triangle is set to the measurement I need to make my quarter square triangles at. So from the strip, I will cut the quarter square triangles. And that's my 4 quarter square triangles cut. We need to cut is the diamond, which is the B piece. So I've set the ruler at 8. Going to cut a strip for the diamond. And now I'm going to cross cut that strip into diamonds. So I'm going to use the 45-degree line on the ruler. Line that up with the edge of the fabric. Take off the tip. And now bring the guide in to cut the diamond. And we need 8 diamonds for this block, and that's my 8 diamonds cut. I have now laid out the block, and the instructions on how to piece the block together are in the instructions. This block could be made from 2 inch to 18 inches using the Epsilon star setter. the traditional 8-point star finished block. If I flip that one over, you can see how my seams are all going in one direction. These seams are also going in one direction, which makes easy nesting, and I can spiral my centre and get a lovely flat centre. The easy Lemoyne star is made using B, C and D. The D is a half square triangle, so we will cut the strips on the bias, and the C is also a half square triangle, and we will cut those on the bias. So the first one we will cut will be C. And we will use the 45-degree line to cut our bias strips. Cut the required number of bias strips. With our strip cut, we now need to cross cut it, so we'll tip the ruler upside down, take our triangle and our setting guide, and miraculously I've already got this one set up at the right measurement. Now I can cross cut the triangles. So just putting the guide to the edge, always holding from the clear, cut out the first set of triangles. I have 4 triangles. For this block I need 8 triangles. I will just put the guide to the tip of the one I cut before and cut out my triangle. So now I have my 8 triangles cut. The next piece we will cut is the D piece. So just adjust the ruler again. And adjust the triangle. This is why we need to have our smaller tools, the quarter square or the miniature quarter square triangle. And now my triangle is set. So my ruler is set for my strips, and I will cut the strip of fabric. And now the triangles. Again, we need 8 triangles. So now I have my triangles cut. To cut the next piece, which is B, which is our diamond, which we're going to cut straight of grain. Cut the strip and then cross cut into diamonds using the 45-degree line on the ruler. Make the first cut and then using the guide for the next cut. I have 4 diamonds. I need 8 for this block, and that's my 8 diamonds cut. I like to lay out my block, that way I don't make mistakes when I go to sew my pieces together. And this block is made without any Y seams. I will sew this piece to here, and I will sew all of those D pieces onto the B piece around the block. Then I will press that piece, and then I will sew my C piece onto the block. I will make 8 units. I will then join through the diagonal. I will then have 4 squares. Sew the squares together. I have 2 halves. Sew those together and my block is complete. the finished 8-point star. If we have a look at the back, you can see how I've pressed it. My seams are going in one direction and my centre is spiralled. My seams here are pressed in the same direction, and so are these seams. That way I can nest my seams to put my block together, but I'm also getting a very flat centre in the middle of my block, which gives me a much nicer finish. To make strip diamonds, set the guide on F. I've set this at 8, and I've got a straight edge on my fabric already, so I'm just going to cut out a strip from one colour and cut a strip from the next fabric. Once I've got the strips cut, I then cut where the fold is, and the same on the other piece. That way I'm not sewing the full length of fabric. I will now put the two pieces together and I'll go and sew those. I have sewn the strips with a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I have pressed to the dark in this case. I'm going to cross cut this strip into diamonds, so I've set the ruler on B to the measurement required, which was 8. I'm now going to align the 45-degree line with the straight edge of the fabric, and that will take off the selvage. Now, just using the guide, I will cut the diamonds. When you are cutting smaller diamonds, it does pay to look at the line with the guide in place and make sure you are still in line. From the first strip, I have 6 diamonds. And I'm now going to use the second strip. Again, I'm going to come using my 45-degree line just past the edge of the fabric and cut 2 more diamonds for the block. And now my star will have a stripe. I now have a star with a striped diamond, and I will just sew this either using the traditional method with the Y seam or with the easy star. I can take every second diamond and spin it around, and that will change my block. I can also take every second diamond out and put a plain diamond into the block for a different look. If I take out this diamond, move this one, take out this one, move this one, I can have 2 of the plain diamonds. I have another block. If I flip the fabric over and cut my diamonds this way, my diamond stripes, when I put them together, will be in the opposite direction, and that will give me another look. Where before in the block my diamonds came together, like this. I can now have the two orange pieces together at the top and the bottom, and I've got the plain here. I could use 4 as in this block, or I could use 8 where I would have all the oranges at the outside of the block. For the Harlequin diamond, I'm going to cut 4 small diamonds per diamond unit. So I've set the guide up on F, my fabric is already straightened, and I will cut a strip of fabric. I will then cross-cut that fabric into diamonds again, using the 45-degree line. Each diamond will require 2 triangles of each colour. So I've got 8 of the dark, and now I'll cut the light. When making the Harlequin diamonds, we are going to take 2 dark and 2 light, and we will sew them together. We'll sew them in pairs and then sew the pairs together. When doing this, we have overhanging points that we need to align. So I like to use the 45-degree trim guide, and that makes it easy for me to align those points. So my little stack of 4 diamonds, put the trim guide over the diamonds. When the guide hits the edge of the fabric, hold the fabric through the little hole in the middle and take off the tips. Spin it around and do the same at the other end. Taking the dark diamond, I only take the tip off the bottom of this diamond. You can take both, but I like to keep the tip on when I'm aligning, sewing it into the block. So now, when I go to sew up this diamond, my points have been taken off, and I have straight edge to straight edge sewing. So I don't have to align my points overhanging as here, which makes it a much easier way to sew my blocks together. For the split diamond, which is a diamond that is sewn through the centre, so one half the diamond is one colour and the other is the other colour. Cut strips of fabric, one of the dark, and one of the light, and I'm going to sew this again with a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance. So I'll sew 2 strips together with the scant seam allowance. I have sewn the strips together with a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance, and now I'll use the 22.5 degree line on the ruler. I will line this up with the edge of the fabric and cut the first cut. Now for the second cut, I just turn the ruler around, line up the 22.5 degree line, and come to the tip of the cut I made before. And that is my first split diamond. Come back to the 22.5 degree line with the edge of the fabric and make sure that you're at the tip of the piece that you cut before. And that is my second diamond. And just keep cutting your diamonds that way. The diamond has been sewn and cut, and we have stitching in the top. And I just flick the stitches out with a seam ripper. Then I can open out the diamond and press it. Remember, when pressing diamonds, triangles, they are very stretchy, have bias edges and can be very easily stretched out of shape. Now all we have to do is trim away the dog ears. And our split diamonds are finished. We also make a split diamond ruler, and this is for doing split diamonds for 2 inch to 18 inches. And I've sewn my fabrics together, sewn both sides. Now I can just put the guide to the edge of the fabric, hold it down and cut out the diamond. This is the optional way of cutting diamonds for our split diamond blocks. And I think you'll agree it's a very easy way to cut out those diamonds. You can also, if you want, do as we did earlier and have the point coming to the edge of the fabric, guide to the edge and cut the diamonds. Again, you will be taking out the stitches at the top and pressing it open. If we take the Easy Lemoyne Star, which is in half square triangle units, and we change one of those half square triangle units, I'll replace this one with a coloured C piece. I will put a diamond in across at the top, and we will change this block completely. Now, with all the corners changed, you can see how different this block has become. It is still using the basic construction of the Easy 8-point star. Another way to change the block is to take this C piece out and replace it with a C piece the same colour as the centre. Take this diamond out, replace it with a C piece. Then I'm going to put a dark diamond here, and that will give me a completely different looking block again. With the pieces together now, you can see how different this block is again. This block would look lovely in a quilt just using this block repeated over the quilt.